A truly momentous topic. One man complained of a sleepless night. He had tossed and turned, and was about as exhausted as when he retired. "Guess I'd better stop listening to the news before going to bed," he observed. "I tuned in last night and sure got an earful of trouble." That is quite a phrase, an earful of trouble. Little wonder he had a disturbed night. Maybe the coffee I drank before retiring had something to do with it, he mused. The other man spoke up. "As for me, I had a grand night. I got my news from the evening paper and from an early broadcast, and had a chance to digest it before I went to sleep. Of course," he continued, "I used my go-to-sleep plan, which never fails to work." I prodded him for his plan, which he explained as follows. "When I was a boy, my father, a farmer, had the habit of gathering the family in the parlor at bedtime, and he read to us out of the Bible. I can hear him yet. In fact, every time I hear those Bible verses I always seem to hear them in the tone of my father's voice. After prayers I would go up to my room and sleep like a top. But when I left home I got away from the Bible reading and prayer habit. I must admit that for years practically the only time I ever prayed was when I got into a jam. But, some months ago my wife and I, having a number of difficult problems, decided we would try it again. We found it a very helpful practice, so now every night, before going to bed, she and I together read the Bible and have a little session of prayer. I don't know what there is about it, but I have been sleeping better, and things have improved all down the line. In fact, I find it so helpful that even out on the road, as I am now, I still read the Bible and pray. Last night I got into bed and read the 23rd Psalm. I read it out loud, and it did me a lot of good." He turned to the other man and said, "I didn't go to bed with an earful of trouble. I went to sleep with a mind full of peace." Well, there are two cryptic phrases for you: an earful of trouble, and a mind full of peace. Which do you choose? The essence of the secret lies in a change of mental attitude. One must learn to live on a different thought basis, and even though thought change requires effort, it is much easier than to continue living as you are. The life of strain is difficult. The life of inner peace, being harmonious and without stress, is the easiest type of existence. The chief struggle then in gaining mental peace is the effort of revamping your thinking to the relaxed attitude of acceptance of God's gift of peace. As an illustration of taking a relaxed attitude, and therefore receiving peace, I always think of an experience in a certain city, where I lectured one evening. Prior to going on the platform I was sitting backstage going over my speech, when a man approached and wanted to discuss a personal problem. I informed him that at the moment it was impossible to talk as I was just about to be introduced, and asked him to wait. While speaking I noticed him in the wings nervously pacing up and down, but afterward he was nowhere about. However, he had given me his card, which indicated that he was a man of considerable influence in that city. Back at my hotel, although it was late, I was still troubled by this man, so I telephoned him. He was surprised at my call and explained that he did not wait, because obviously I was busy. "I just wanted you to pray with me," he said. "I thought if you would pray with me, perhaps I could get some peace." "There is nothing to prevent us from praying together on the telephone right now," I said. Somewhat in surprise, he replied, "I have never heard of praying on the telephone." "Why not?" I asked. "A telephone is simply a gadget of communication. You are some blocks from me, but by means of the telephone we are together. Besides," I continued, "the Lord is with each of us. He is at both ends of this line and in between. He is with you, and he is with me." "All right," he conceded. "I'd like to have you pray for me." So I closed my eyes and prayed for the man over the telephone, and I prayed, just as though we were in the same room. He could hear, and the Lord could hear. When I finished I suggested, "Won't you pray?" There was no response. Then at the other end of the line I heard sobbing, and finally, "I can't talk," he said. "Go on and cry for a minute or two and then pray," suggested. "Simply tell the Lord everything that is bothering you. I assume this is a private line, but if not, and if anybody is listening, it won't matter. As far as anyone is concerned, we are just a couple of voices. Nobody would know it is you and I." This encouraged, he started to pray, hesitantly at first, and then with great impetuosity he poured out his heart, and it was filled with hate, frustration, failure, a mass of it. Finally he prayed plaintively, "Dear Jesus, I have a lot of nerve to ask you to do anything for me, because I never did anything for you. I guess you know what a no count I am, even though I put on a big front. I'm sick of all this. Dear Jesus, please help me." So I prayed again, and asked the Lord to answer his prayer, then said, "Lord, at the other end of the telephone wire, place your hand on my friend, and give him peace. Help him now to yield himself, and accept your gift of peace." Then I stopped, and there was a rather long pause, and I shall never forget the tone in his voice as I heard him say, "I shall always remember this experience, and I want you to know that for the first time in months I feel clean inside and happy and peaceful." This man employed a simple technique for having a peaceful mind. He emptied his mind, and he received peace as a gift from God. As a physician said, "Many of my patients have nothing wrong with them except their thoughts. So I have a favorite prescription that I write for some. But it is not a prescription that you can fill at a drugstore. The prescription I write is a verse from the Bible, Romans 12:2. I do not write out that verse for my patients. I make them look it up, and it reads, Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. To be happier and healthier they need renewing of their minds, that is, a change in the pattern of their thoughts. When they take this prescription, they actually achieve a mind full of peace. That helps to produce health and well-being. A primary method for gaining a mind full of peace is to practice emptying the mind. This will be emphasized in another chapter, but I mention it here to underscore the importance of a frequent mental catharsis. I recommend a mind emptying at least twice a day, more often if necessary. Definitely practice emptying your mind of fears, hates, insecurities, regrets, and guilt feelings. The mere fact that you consciously make this effort to empty your mind tends to give relief. Haven't you experienced a sense of release when you have been able to pour out to somebody whom you can trust worrisome matters that lay heavy upon the heart? As a pastor, I have often observed how much it means to people to have someone to whom they can truly, and in confidence, tell everything troubling their minds. I conducted a religious service on board the SS Lurline on a recent voyage to Honolulu. In the course of my talk I suggested that people who were carrying worries in their minds might go to the stern of the vessel, and imaginatively take each anxious thought out of the mind, drop it overboard, and watch it disappear in the wake of the ship. It seems an almost childlike suggestion, but a man came to me later that day and said, "I did as you suggested, and am amazed at the relief it has given me." During this voyage, he said, "Every evening at sunset I am going to drop all my worries overboard until I develop the psychology of casting them entirely out of my consciousness. Every day I shall watch them disappear in the great ocean of time." Decently, the Bible says something about forgetting those things that are behind. The man to whom this suggestion appealed is not an impractical sentimentalist. On the contrary, he is a person of extraordinary mental stature, an outstanding leader in his field. Of course, emptying the mind is not enough. When the mind is emptied, something is bound to enter. The mind cannot long remain a vacuum. You cannot go around permanently with an empty mind. I admit that some people seem to accomplish that feat, but by and large it is necessary to refill the emptied mind, or the old unhappy thoughts which you have cast out will come sneaking in again. To prevent that happening, immediately start filling your mind with creative and healthy thoughts. Then when the old fears, hates, and worries that have haunted you for so long try to edge back in, they will in effect find a sign on the door of your mind reading "occupied." They may struggle for admission, for having lived in your mind for a long time, they feel at home there. But the new and healthy thoughts which you have taken in will now be stronger and better fortified, and therefore able to repulse them. Presently the old thoughts will give up altogether, and leave you alone. You will permanently enjoy a mind full of peace. At intervals during the day, practice thinking a carefully selected series of peaceful thoughts. Let mental pictures of the most peaceful scenes you have ever witnessed pass across your mind, as, for example, some beautiful valley filled with the hush of evening time, as the shadows lengthen, and the sun sinks to rest. Or recall the silvery light of the moon falling upon rippling waters, or remember the sea washing gently upon soft shores of sand. Such peaceful thought images will work upon your mind as a healing medicine. So now and then during every day, allow motion pictures of peace slowly to cross your mind. Practice the technique of suggestive articulation, that is, repeat audibly some peaceful words. Words have profound suggestive power, and there is healing in the very saying of them. Utter a series of panicky words, and your mind will immediately go into a mild state of nervousness. You will perhaps feel a sinking in the pit of your stomach that will affect your entire physical mechanism. If, on the contrary, you speak peaceful, quieting words, your mind will react in a peaceful manner. Use such a word as tranquility. Repeat that word slowly several times. Tranquility is one of the most beautiful and melodic of all English words, and the mere saying of it tends to induce a tranquil state. Another healing word is serenity. Picturize serenity as you say it. Repeat it slowly, and in the mood of which the word is a symbol. Words such as these have a healing potency when used in this manner. It is also helpful to use lines from poetry or passages from the scriptures. A man of my acquaintance who achieved a remarkable peace of mind has the habit of writing on cards unusual quotations expressing peacefulness. He carries one of the cards in his wallet at all times, referring to it frequently until each quotation is committed to memory. He says that each such idea dropped into the subconscious lubricates his mind with peace. A peaceful concept is indeed oil on troubled thoughts. One of the quotations which he used is from a 16th century mystic: "Let nothing disturb you. Let nothing frighten you. Everything passes away except God. God alone is sufficient." The words of the Bible have a particularly strong therapeutic value. Drop them into your mind, allowing them to dissolve in consciousness, and they will spread a healing balm over your entire mental structure.